What if your house could just turn off the water when it sensed a leak? Water sensor goes off, sends a signal to whatever home automation system you're using, and then just automatically turns off the water to your house, stopping any further property damage. Here's a setup for less than $400 that you could get installed. After plumbing for 12 years, I've seen loads of stuff. One of the worst ones that sticks out in my mind is this video from December 24th, a few years ago. This was completely out of the owner's control. Their toilet supply line just decided to let go while they were out for Christmas dinner. Unfortunately, the neighbors below had to call in the fire department and they destroyed their unit getting in. They were able to turn the water off and stop any more damages, but unfortunately, it was already caused. Today, I'm going to show you how we can automate our water and make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. I'm going to be doing a little test today with what we have in front of us. This is just some gear that I picked up off Amazon. None of this stuff was sent to me. This was all purchased for a project I'm doing. We'll be doing a test at home first, just so I can actually show you guys how it works and confirm the operation before I go install it at a family's residence. Starting off with the remote water sensors, there are loads of brands out there. I picked these Yolink ones because they were on sale from like $150 down to $100. From what I've seen, they have some pretty good reviews. So it'll be good to test them out and see what they actually work like. For the valve, I found this Sedna Sinope. They actually do make their own water sensors. They were a little bit out of the budget for this project though, so I had to go with something a bit cheaper. But it's kind of good because we can test out whether you have to stick with them or if you can just use any water sensor. Now there's an old plumbing system called PolyB. You may have heard of it before. It's been outlawed. There's been class action lawsuits against it and everything. So one thing that insurance companies are doing is they're either getting you to replace all of your PolyB or they're getting you to put in a smart water sensor that has a shutoff valve on your main. That way, if there is a leak, you can turn it off. So that's what I got right here. Now, I've never used this product before. It's one that I found on Amazon. Seemed to have pretty good reviews and I like the look of it. So we're gonna try installing this. And then we've got just some smart hub water sensors. This is the hub, and then we've got 4 water sensors. That's what the insurance company wanted, so that's what we're gonna be putting in. So this is just the head of the valve. You guys can kind of see. So this is just the actuator. This will open and close the valve depending on what's called for. And then we have just a 3/4 full through ball valve. So this will work really nice, stainless steel, so it doesn't rust. So to show you guys how this actually works, I'm gonna do a little test at home before we go to site and install it. That way you guys can actually visually see everything working and how it would work in a real world application before we do the install. For this test, we're gonna need to download 3 apps. We're gonna need to download the Amazon ecosystem app. I'm not gonna say the name and activate your speaker. I've already had to edit that out way too many times. The other 2 apps are the Yolink and NeviWeb app. Once those 2 apps are also installed, in the Amazon app, we're gonna have to go ahead and enable the skills. That way they can be used by the smart home. I'm sure there is a home assistant integration. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to test it out. I didn't have time to do that before the install. Now that we've got the apps downloaded, we can continue on with that test. So the first thing that we'll get done is we'll start setting up the smart sensors and make sure that they're actually working. After downloading the Yolink app and setting everything up, we've now got our water sensor and our hub connected. Next thing we can do, actually test the water sensor and see if it works. There we go. We can hear that the water sensor is actually working properly. Remove that, give it a quick dry off, and it should stop. Just like that. Now that we've got the water sensor all hooked up and it's working properly, it's time to test out the water valve. Same thing, we'll hook this up. We'll have to download their proprietary app and make sure it's all connected to our Wi-Fi. Then we can go ahead and integrate it into Amazon. We can see the battery compartment here, and we're just gonna have to do some joining on these in order to get it to connect to the Wi-Fi. Now we've got all that connected, we can go ahead and actually test out the valve, and you can hear that it's closing. I don't know if you can actually see that too, but the ball, oh sorry, it's opening, and now it's closing. Perfect. Now that we've got the Yolink sensors and the Sedna valve on their proprietary apps, the only thing we have left to do is integrate it into our Amazon ecosystem. So really quickly, let's go ahead and do that. After we finish the water sensors and shutoff valves setup, we just need to set up the Amazon ecosystem. Inside the Amazon ecosystem app, we're going to want to make sure that we're enabling the skill for it. After the skill is enabled and the water sensors are all into Amazon, we can get to the fun part of setting up the routines. The routine is how it's going to automatically turn off when there's water sensed. So let's walk you through that. Go back to the routine section. We're going to have to select the event first. This will just be the first water sensor that we're going to be setting up. Then we're going to have to select what event type we want. Open means that there's no water sensed. It's a dry contact. Closed means that there's water sensed. And so the alarm should be going off and there will be a notification sent to Amazon. Last but not least, we need to set up the action. What happens when the alarm is going off? For that, we're going to want to select our new valve and then hit closed. Rinse and repeat for all your other smart home sensors. Now you might be wondering where the best placement is for all of these. So I'm going to be getting to that at the end of the video after we do the installation. I'm going to show you guys the best spots that I would pick and why we pick those spots. Now let's finish this test at home and make sure it works before we actually do that install. Okay, we've got everything hooked up to our Amazon ecosystem. All of our routines have been put into place. Unfortunately, when I tried to do this with Google, it wanted me to confirm that I wanted my shutoff valve to turn off, which if you're out or in the middle of the night, that's the last thing you want. You want it just to turn off automatically. So let's try that out really quick. One sensor. And there we go, that's almost instantly. And just like that, our water has turned off. Now, one thing that I've done is if you can hear the water sensors actually turned off, but our water's still off. The reason that is because I want to have to find where the leak was coming from before I can turn this on. But as soon as you find that and fix the leak, that's all you have to do. Hit the open button. And there we go, back to full open, water's flowing, everything's back to normal. I just want to put a little disclaimer here. I am a professional plumber. I've been doing this for 12 years. Please make sure that if you aren't comfortable with doing this yourself, you hire it done. A lot of people say that plumbing and electrical are the two things that they don't want to touch. Kind of agree with that if you don't know what you're doing. So we're at our family member's house, and there's a few things that are wrong with this piping system. First off, you can see all the brass that's showing on these. That shouldn't be there. These should be fully seated with a ring around them, not a ring barely touching the pipe. So we're gonna get these replaced, that way it's not an issue. It hasn't leaked since install. I don't know how long ago that was. This is my first time here, but again, something that we need to look at and make sure that we're leaving our family member in the best position possible. Now, the main reason that we're here is because if you can see this gray pipe here, see how it's not white? This is called PolyB. And it's a piping system that we are no longer install. We're not allowed to install it. It's not even manufactured anymore. It's kind of the predecessor to PEX, and it has a huge failure rate. So much so that insurance doesn't even want to insure the house while it's got PolyB in it. Now, water sensors are a quick stopgap. I'm planning on replacing this pipe in a few months, but for now, our insurance gave us the approval to do this. Before we cut any piping apart to install our new water valve, first we have to turn the water off to the house and then drain it from our lowest fixture. In this house, that's a valve in the mechanical room for the old humidifier and a bathroom sink in the basement. So first things first, cut out this. We will get some water. And just like that, in about 15, 20 minutes, we've got our valve installed. We've replaced those lines that were not seated all the way. So now everything's seated nice and properly. One thing left to do, plug this bad boy in, test it out, make sure that we have no leaks, pack everything up. So let's go make sure we don't have leaks. So now we've got the valve installed, the water's back on. We just need to go and put all the sensors in their locations. So me as a plumber, where are kind of my top 4 spots that I'm going to be placing in this house? Well, for starters, I always like to do near the floor drain. Why? Because there are so many things that can go wrong. You can have a leak, you could have your hot water tank go if it's in the same room as your floor drain, which typically the mechanical room it is. Another good reason is because of backups. If you have a backup that's going on and you're taking a shower, you may not even know. But if that shower turns off halfway through, you're gonna know. So that's gonna be a really good spot to monitor. Another really good spot is the toilet. Why? Because just like in the first part of this video, toilet supply lines break, toilets leak all the time. It's just a really good spot to have them. This house actually has 2 bathrooms, so each bathroom is gonna get a water sensor. Kitchen sinks are also really good. You use the kitchen all the time, probably one of the most used sinks, so having a water sensor under there is always a good idea. If I had some more sensors, what are some other spots that you would put them? I would definitely put one underneath the dishwasher. Dishwashers leak all the time, and it's typically not the plumbing, it's the actual appliance itself. In apartments, dishwashers cause huge amounts of damage. Same with fridges. If they have a water line or an ice box in them, a fridge is another really bad spot that can leak, and you may not notice it for a very long time. So having a water sensor underneath your fridge or behind it, great idea. Washing machines as well, great convenience, but unfortunately they do leak. The front load ones are a little bit worse from what I've heard, but I have seen the top load ones fail as well. Is installing water sensors and a shutoff valve really a solution to the PolyB issue? I wouldn't say it is. The problem with PolyB is that it can fail in the middle of a run. So it can fail in the middle of your living room or kitchen or whatever. It doesn't need to be at a certain spot. So you're much better off to actually get the full thing replaced and get PolyB completely ripped out of your house and PEX put in. I would still 100% recommend doing water sensors and doing the water shutoff valve, because although PolyB is bad, some appliances, they just start leaking, and it's worth just having that automatic shutoff. Peace of mind is always a good thing, especially when you're out of town. My house is actually completely copper plumbed, but at some point in the future, I'm going to be putting in my own automatic shutoff valve and water sensors. Thanks again for hanging around, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out some of my other ones. Here's one where I'm actually using the heat that my computer and my home lab are generating and heating my house with it. Hope you enjoy. We'll see you later.